Good morning, and now we are ready to roll. We are all over here, and again, a very warm welcome to this Agora session, the EU's Global Gateway Market Creation or International Development. My name is Jean Saldana, and I'm the director of Eurodad, who is the co-organizer of this Agora session. Eurodad is the European Network on Debt and Development, and we are organizing this together with Counterbalance, which is another civil society organization working on financial justice. Obviously, the session is about the Global Gateway. The EU announced its Global Gateway in December 2021, declaring that the gateway was about increasing investment, promoting democratic values and high standards, good governance and transparency, equal partnerships, green and clean, secure infrastructure, and that catalyze private sector investment. The Global Gateway, we've been told, aims to mobilize up to 300 billion, and this by drawing on tools that have been adopted by the EU's 2021-2027 multi-annual financial framework. The gateway is to be delivered through the Team Europe approach, bringing together the EU and its member states together with the development finance institutions, including the European Investment Bank and the European Bank on Reconstruction and Development. But this is as much as we know. The reality is that there is very little information out there in the public domain about the gateway and how it will increase investment and exactly how it will promote democratic values, good governance, transparency, and equal partnerships. It appears that the gateway is not being supported by fresh resources, but it is made up of repackaged finance from existing initiatives. Drawing on our knowledge of the instruments that feed into the Global Gateway, such as the European Fund for Sustainable Development Plus, we know, for instance, that it assumes that using a small amount of public resources to leverage, it will leverage a large amount of private investment. But it is not clear whether this private investment would happen anyway, or whether using public resources in this way maximizes development impact. In other words, a big question for us is the financial and development additionality of the Global Gateway. Secondly, the Gateway is presented as being aligned to the June 2021 G7 commitment to launch a values-driven, high-standard and transparent infrastructure partnership to meet global infrastructure development needs. And it is apparently going to mutually reinforce the US initiative, Build Back Better World. Salutary as these common aspirations are to, for instance, demonstrate how democratic values offer certainty and fairness for investors, sustainability for partners, and long-term benefits for people around the world, there are concerns that geopolitical interests are at the core of this effort. So the question remains, to what extent does the Global Gateway have political poverty alleviation, the reduction of inequality, and sustainable development at its core? So therefore, I'm delighted to have two very esteemed speakers to answer these questions. Mr. Felix Fernandez-Shaw, who is the Director for Sustainable Development at DG INPA, and Mr. Reinhard Bütikofer, who is the MEP for the German Green Party and member of the European Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee. And we do look forward to them responding to some of our questions and concerns. Mr. Felix Fernandez-Shaw and Mr. Reinhard Bütikofer, warm welcome. Obviously, this is a lightning session, we've been told, so we'd be grateful for very, very short answers, maximum 3 minutes each. And if we keep to time, we would even be able to ask the audience for their questions. But I'd start off by asking each of you to Tell me, so first of all, the Global Gateway as EU's flagship project is trying to, as I mentioned just before this, merge EU's geopolitical and foreign policy expansion plans with its development plans, as they already exist under the European Financial Architecture and International Cooperation instruments. But given the fact that there are no new resources allocated to the Global Gateway, what exactly, in your view, is the value added of this strategy? And how would you respond to the critique that this is simply a repackaging of existing resources? I start with you, Mr. Felix Fernandez-Shaw, and then we'd ask Mr. Butikoffer for his opinion.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Welcome to the EDDs, welcome to the Global Gateway. And I would say that we are Team Europe, and we connect you to the Global Gateway. That's the essence of what we want to say. This is an offer, it's an offer to the world to say, if you want to work on sustainable infrastructure, if you want to work on human-centered connectivity, we are not quick, we are not cheap, but we're very good. And we last for a long time. And by bringing everyone together, both at institutional level, at public level, but also at private sector level, we can deliver on the ground. We can deliver, as I said, maybe not extraordinarily quickly, but we can deliver very efficiently. We've been working, for example, our commissioner has just been back, one of the commissioners from Central Asia, from a hydropower plant. We are today having an energy dialogue with Argentina. We are working on the Great Green Wall and Cocoa Initiative in Ivory Coast. We've heard in the opening some of the words on MAF+, on the vaccines. We're trying to bring together the private sector and the public sector. We're trying to look towards the future. So I'm not very concerned about repackaging, and I'm not very concerned about resources. I'm more concerned about projecting into the future. These projects take a long time to mature, and I'm not very concerned about doing things today or tomorrow. I'm concerned about bringing all that we can show for Team Europe, bringing the private sector, the companies, our banks, our public development banks, our ODA together, and trying to build together with those partners who want to be green, who want to be fair, who want to be gender friendly and gender equal. We want to build that together with them. And for that, what we need is scale. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you very much. So an initiative is still early in its starting phase and still needs to be matured. What do you think about the issue of additionality and whether it is just a repackaging of existing resources, Mr. Butikoffer?
Thank you for having me and for giving me the opportunity of correcting some of the confusion that you created in your introduction. It is not true that it is just repackaging existing funding. That's a confusion that can easily be disturbed and discarded if you look into the strategy that the Commission has published. So when you say we don't have the information, just go and look for the information that is in the public domain. It is also a misunderstanding to cast this conversation as an either-or between market creation or development policy. It's neither. It is indeed something you might be wary of, but it is indeed a geopolitical initiative that tries to combine three different dimensions. On one side, it emphasizes the infrastructure dimension of development work. On the other side, it emphasizes that transformational efforts that we try to make with our partners with regard to the green transformation and the digital transformation. And thirdly, it also has indeed, and very importantly, has a geopolitical aspect where we want to work with like-minded countries to help their development in particular. So it's not an effort to create a market for European industry. The title seems to imply that. That's a falsity. It is not just a continuation of development policy. It's not old wine in new wineskins. It's a new geopolitical initiative. And it's not either just a follow-up to the Build Back Better World initiative. Instead, I would say, Europe with the Global Gateway is taking the lead. When you really look at what the US are doing, you will find that they're dragging the feet, that the Build Back Better initiative is on the back burner now. We want to cooperate with those countries that are really energetic, like India, for instance. We have a connectivity agreement with India, like Japan. We're working with ASEAN, with Korea, with Australia, with the African Union. So this is meant to be a part of a global network of trusted connectivity initiatives.
All right, thank you for that. So I understand that we're getting it wrong about the fact that this is a repackaging, and this is an initiative that Global Team Europe is putting out there to seek partners in the world that want to build a future green world, and obviously infrastructure at its focus. You also mentioned the fact that it is not necessarily only about EU businesses or about geopolitical interest, but we as civil society are very interested in the question about how sustainable development drives this initiative. Is there, and can you give us examples of how the Global Gateway is going to reduce inequalities, is going to be about reducing poverty and addressing sustainable development? Obviously, it is just 8 years to the Agenda 2030 deadline. With the current crisis, with COVID, we are further than ever in terms of poverty levels. So how do you see the global initiative helping to contribute to sustainable development?
Thanks. I think I will side with Reinhard in saying that we try to oppose concepts that we here in the European Union we don't use. You would not ask that question of the next generation EU funds. You would not put that question out there. How do the next generation EU funds, are they going to build sustainable development? Are they going to foster SDGs? Of course they are. They're going to do that by promoting investment, technological advancement, by promoting gender equality. That's exactly the same kind of project that we are offering outside. We've been offering for quite some time. The novelty here is bringing the private sector and bringing all of Team Europe together and trying to reach scale outside. We have scale, we have market inside the Union. Let's do it also outside. When you go inside the Union with public funding to deliver public objectives, public policy objectives, what you're asking private companies is if they deliver on your public policy objectives, you're willing to work with them. We're doing exactly the same thing outside with European companies and with local companies. If you're willing to deliver renewable energies, if you're willing to deliver human-centered digitalization, connectivity, if you're willing to come with us and mine in a respectful way, we're willing to work with you because that brings sustainable development for both sides. Think about the capacities of green hydrogen. Think about the fantastic need there will be for investments, for financing, but also for technical assistance, for infrastructure works. We can no longer do this on our own, whether it's the European Commission or Germany or Lithuania. We need scale to accomplish those investments, but at the same time we need a 360 degrees. And 360 degrees is provided by the SDGs. We cannot deliver all those things if we're not true to what we are. And to be true to what we are, we can only follow the sustainable development path and the goals. And that's how we look at it when we talk to the private sector. I was last week, on a panel with some people from the private sector. They're starting to say, I have a telecom, I'm investing in this country, my return on investment is mainly profiting on cities because that's where I have the largest amount of clients for my investment. But I understand, and the government understands, that we need to enlarge that to cover everyone. Therefore, I need support in going beyond my return on investment to cover those places where I need a high cost, for a very small return. And that's where I'm willing to come in, because that's where my sustainable development goal and my public policy objective comes in.
It is a bit difficult to show examples of how the Global Gateway works, because, as you said, we're just in the initial phase and we're selecting lighthouse projects to be identified before the end of the year. But I can give you one example, which is a project that is very much in the spirit of the Global Gateway and has already been realized. That's the Ella-Link deep sea cable between Sines in Portugal and Brazil. This cable will enhance the connectivity, the digital connectivity, and there are now ideas of extending that cable between Brazil and Angola, and also to build a deep sea cable around Africa that might then even be linked to further east to Singapore. By creating that kind of very basic infrastructure, we would help, if it came to pass, we would help the development of the regional economies, and that would of course contribute to poverty alleviation. We have tried to make sure in the decisions that the European Parliament has taken that the guidelines, the leading ideas are very clear. And we have emphasized in our work in the Foreign Relations Committee, but also in the Development Committee, the sustainability and the sustainable development goals as a yardstick for that contribution from the European Union. We have also emphasized the development of the local economy in explicit terms in the decision that the Foreign Policy Committee has taken. It is emphasized that this should help to develop micro and small and medium-sized enterprises in the regions, so as to not make them economically dependent, but more self-confident and self-reliant.
All right, thank you very much. As I said, this is a lightning session. I'm afraid we have run out of time. I've got an indication what we have to conclude, but what I take away is that from your comments and from your answers, you believe that we still need to give the Global Gateway a chance because it is in its starting blocks. But on the other hand, I'd say a couple of things. Even though obviously I'm hearing that we've got it wrong about the repackaging of existing resources in the initiative, unfortunately what we have been able to get in the public domain and the answers that we've got so far has not got us very much more clarity than what already exists about the fact that it comes from the EFSD Plus, it comes from a few existing initiatives from development finance institutions. Much more than that, there is not more information. So I think there is a challenge still around transparency and about access to information about the Global Gateway. And we would be happy to continue to be in dialogue with the Parliament and the Commission to ensure that that information is accessible.
If you allow me to make one comment there, I don't think it's particularly fair for the moderator to make prejudiced comments at the beginning and the end.
Well, I'm just saying that that is a message I think that we as civil society would convey to respond to the comments that you made, that obviously the information is out there. Unfortunately, it has not really been accessible.
Well, it is accessible, you just have to go and look. Sorry, you didn't make your homework.
We'll certainly look, and we look forward to continuing to be in dialogue with you to help us find that information, particularly on the evidence. I think indeed the SDGs is at the center, and we welcome that. But what we need to find now is the evidence that it is the SDGs that are driving the Global Gateway, along with obviously the interest in working together with partners, and while I welcome the examples that you provide, I think the importance is also to ensure that along with working with willing partners, we also ensure the involvement of stakeholders on the ground in the engagement with willing partners. So I think rather than concluding remarks, it would be an invitation to continue this conversation with the different EU institutions to ensure that the Global Gateway is truly contributing to sustainable development. Thank you very much to both of you for responding to our questions, engaging in this debate, and we look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.